Right in the heart of the Mediterranean Sea, there's this archipelago, basically a cluster of limestone islands. It's a nation so tiny you could literally drive across it in an hour. And yet, this one little spot has shaped the course of empires for thousands of years. So we're going to tell the story of Malta, an island nation that was forged in the fire of clashing empires and the constant tides of history. Okay, let's start with a number. 1,649. That's how many people live in every single square kilometer of Malta. To put that in perspective, that makes it one of the most densely populated nations on the entire planet. And here's why that number is so high. The whole country is just 316 square kilometers. That's it. That makes it the 10th smallest country in the world. So you've got this tiny, absolutely packed little rock right in the middle of a huge sea. It's a total contradiction, right? Which brings us to the big question, the one that historians have asked for centuries. How on earth did this tiny little rock become such a linchpin of history? Why was it so coveted by empire after empire for thousands of years?
Well, it all starts with one thing: geography. See, Malta's power was never about its size. It was always about its location. So picture this. About 80 kilometers south of Sicily, you have this small chain of islands popping up out of the sea. That's Malta, Gozo, and Camino. But it's so much more than just a piece of land. It's basically a natural fortress, a naval choke point that controls the super important shipping lanes between Europe and Africa. For centuries, the thinking was simple. If you hold Malta, you hold the key to the entire Mediterranean.
But here's the crazy part. Long before it was this strategic prize, it was a sacred place. The island has these incredible megalithic temples. And get this, they're some of the oldest freestanding structures on Earth. We're talking built around 3500 BC. That's older than Stonehenge, older even than the Great Pyramids. An entire civilization of temple builders lived here, and then they just vanished. Poof, gone without a trace.
And right after they disappeared, well, that's when the rest of the world showed up. For the next 3,000 years, Malta wasn't really a home. It was more like a strategic pit stop, a crossroads where the biggest empires of the day came to clash. I mean, the list of who ruled this place reads like a who's who of Mediterranean history. First, you've got the Phoenicians, the master sailors, who saw its amazing harbors and set up a vital trading post. Then come the Romans, bringing Latin and, as the story goes, Christianity, thanks to the shipwreck of St. Paul himself. After them, Arab rule introduced amazing irrigation, new crops, and the Siculo-Arabic language, which, believe it or not, is the foundation of modern Maltese. Fast forward to 1530, and the Knights of St. John show up, turning the whole island into this epic Christian fortress. And finally, the British Empire rolls in and makes this little rock the headquarters for their entire Mediterranean fleet. It's just layer upon layer of history.
But out of all those conflicts, one moment, one event, just towers above the rest: the Great Siege of 1565. You have the full, terrifying might of the Ottoman Empire crashing down on this tiny island, dead set on crushing the Knights of St. John. The defenders were vastly outnumbered, under siege for months, but they just refused to give up. Their victory, it was impossible. It was a massive turning point in European history, stopping the Ottoman advance in the Mediterranean and cementing Malta's legend as an unbreakable fortress.
You know, for all its history of conflict, Malta wasn't always a battlefield. During World War I, that same strategic location was used for something totally different, for healing. Tens of thousands of wounded soldiers from the Allied side were brought here to recover. It earned the island a new nickname, the Nurse of the Mediterranean. But that spirit of resilience, it was tested like never, ever before during World War II. As a critical British base, Malta was hit with one of the most brutal bombing campaigns in all of history. For their unbelievable bravery, the entire island, every man, woman, and child, was awarded the George Cross. That's Britain's highest honor for civilian bravery. It was this incredible, unique collective award, and you can still see it right there on Malta's national flag today. So, out of this relentless history of siege and survival, something truly unique was born: a national identity. It wasn't Phoenician, or Roman, or Arab, or British. It was something brand new, something distinctly Maltese. And you can see this unique identity perfectly in the Maltese language. It's basically a living museum of their history. The foundation of it, the grammar, the core words, is Semitic. It comes from the Arabic spoken there 1,000 years ago. But it's written with the Latin alphabet we use, and it's just filled with words from Italian, Sicilian, and English. It's this incredible mashup, and it's actually the only Semitic language that's an official language in the European Union.
Faith is another huge piece of the puzzle. Catholicism is the state religion, which is a direct legacy of the Knights of St. John.
And you can literally see that faith etched into the landscape. There are over 360 churches on these tiny islands. Think about that. That's roughly one church for every 1,500 people. They are everywhere.
So it's no surprise that this whole history of survival is basically baked right into the national character. The country's official motto says it all, virtute et constantia. It means strength and persistence. And that's not just some fancy phrase, right? It's a perfect description of the Maltese people, a spirit that was earned over thousands of years of just enduring.
Okay, so let's fast forward to today. Malta is a totally modern European nation. But that ancient soul, it's never, ever far from the surface.
And here's a kind of beautiful irony for you. This island, which was once the real-life stage for some of history's most epic battles, is now one of the most popular places in the world to film fictional ones. Its ancient forts and incredible landscapes have been the backdrop for huge productions like Gladiator, Game of Thrones, and Napoleon. They call it the Hollywood of the Mediterranean, and it's now busy recreating the very same kind of history that it once actually lived through.
And it's doing really well for itself. Since joining the EU back in 2004, Malta has built this thriving, high-income economy. It's powered by things like tourism, finance, and a growing tech scene. And get this, it brings in over 1.6 million tourists every year. That's more than 3 times its own population, all of them coming to see this unique mix of sun, sea, and, of course, history.
And that history we keep talking about. It's not just important to Malta. It's considered a global treasure. The country has 3 different UNESCO World Heritage Sites. You've got the capital city, Valletta, which was built by the Knights and is just this stunning work of art. You have those mysterious megalithic temples we talked about, some of the oldest buildings on Earth. And then there's the Hal Saflieni Hypogeum, which is this jaw-dropping 5,000-year-old underground burial complex carved straight out of solid rock. It's just incredible.
So when you think about it, Malta has constantly reinvented itself. It's gone from a prehistoric sanctuary to an imperial fortress, from a besieged outpost to a modern European nation. Which kind of leaves us with one final thought, one last question. In a world that's always changing, what could possibly be the next chapter for an island that really feels like it's already seen it all?